Welcome to the 22nd video in the Building Interactive Website series, where we'll learn about more types of loops. So in the previous video, we learned how to use a for loop. For loops are good for when we know exactly how many times we want to perform a certain action, or if we're iterating through an array or collection as shown in the previous videos. However, there are cases when we know the condition for which we want the loop to continue running, but we don't necessarily know exactly how many times the loop should run. And in order to solve this problem, we need to look at different types of loops. So as an example scenario here, let's say that we wanted to replace the word math inside the string with the word coding. Now we already know how to do that by making use of the string method, replace all, and then we can do math as the string to replace and coding as the replacement string, and then reassign it to the string variable. And as you can see, this works just fine. However, let's say in this case, the replace all method isn't allowed, and we can just use the replace method. And now you can see the replace method only replaces the first instance of the word math. Now we could just copy and paste this line 3 times in order to replace all instances of the word, but this only really works for this specific string where the word math appears 3 times. If it were to appear a 4th time, since we're only replacing the word 3 times, the 4th instance of math is left as it is, which is not what we want. So we have to find some way to dynamically change all instances of the word math in a string with the word coding, using a loop preferably. So in order to solve this problem using a loop, we firstly know that strings have another method called .includes, which allows us to check if a string includes a specific substring or word. So if we type in the word math inside, then this will give us a true or false value telling us if the word math is still in the string. And so in this case, this returns true because math is inside the string. So conceptually, the way that we want to solve this problem is replace the instance of the word math with the word coding in the string while the string includes math. And so the way that we can do that effectively is by making use of another type of loop called a while loop. A while loop is used to run specific code solely based on whether a given condition is true. And the condition can be any Boolean value, just like the for loops that we showed in the previous video. But unlike a for loop, it doesn't require an index variable or loop variable to iterate through, making the while loop somewhat more flexible for this kind of situation. So we can first start by creating a while loop, and we can just type while into the sandbox here, and then click on this while loop completion suggestion here. If you're on Notepad or just a text editor, you'll have to manually type this out. It's just while, and then parentheses, and then curly braces with a blank line in between them. And so what we put in the parentheses is our condition that we want to check for. before executing the code in the curly braces. So in this case, we want to replace the first instance of math in the string with coding if math is in the string in the first place. So our condition can be str.includes math to only run this code if math is still in the string. And then inside these curly braces, we want to put the code that we want to run repeatedly. So in this case, we want to repeatedly replace the word math with coding in the string. So we can do str equals str.replace math, the string math with the string coding. And now you can see if we run the code, all the instances of math in the string are changed to coding. And this even works if we were to reduce the number of times math is present in the string. So as you can see, if we remove that last sentence, it only replaces the string twice. However, if we were to add another sentence instead, then you can see it dynamically detects that there's another instance of the word math in the string and replaces that as well. So functionally what this does is it first checks if math is still in the string, which it is here, and then if so, it replaces the first instance of math with coding. So this first word math here is replaced. And then it checks again with the new string if math is still in it, and it is, it's right here. So then this next instance of math is replaced with coding, and then it checks again, and then it finds math and replaces it. It checks again, finds math again, and replaces it. And then it doesn't find the word math anymore, so it's finished. The loop is finished. And then it just goes in here and displays the output. And so the power of using a while loop in this case is that it can run any number of times, depending on the object that it's looking at, like the string in this case, and depending on the value inside the string or its properties or anything else about it. And so the advantage of using a while loop is that we don't know how many times the loop is going to run, but we can still run the loop if we know the condition that we want to check. And the interesting thing about while loops is that every for loop can effectively be converted into a while loop if you slightly change the way the code is written. So here's a for loop similar to the one from the previous video that just iterates through the values 0 to 4. And so the way we could change this to a while loop is, since the while loop only takes a condition in the parentheses, we can move the initial creation of the loop variable to outside this parentheses and move this code that increments the loop variable I into the loop body itself, so that every time this condition is true, this code runs, and then the variable's incremented at the end. And then finally, we can replace the word for with the word while. And now, as you can see, this code works in exactly the same way. The only difference being the type of loop. And so depending on your condition or what specifically you want to do with the variable, you can use either a for loop or a while loop in order to make the code more readable and make more sense. So you can pick and choose which loop you want to use depending on the situation that you're facing. So another type of loop that is available for us to use in JavaScript is called a do-while loop. And so in order to set up a do-while loop in this case, we can move this first part of the while loop with the while keyword and the parentheses and the condition, and we can bring it to the ending curly brace like this, and then add a semicolon, and then we can type in the word do in the front of this opening curly brace. And so if we were to run the code, you can see functionally it does exactly the same thing. However, let's make it so that this condition is never true on the first time that the loop runs. So in this case, I starts at 0, so I is never less than 0. And so if we run the code, you can see this code still runs one time. And that's because a do while loop, what it does is it just runs the code inside of these curly braces the first time, and then it checks the condition to see if it can reiterate. This means a do while loop will always run at least once. And so we can prove that just a normal while loop wouldn't do anything by changing it back to a while loop. And as you can see, there's no new output in the console. So a do while loop is useful when you want the code inside the loop to run at least once, while a while loop or a for loop is better if you're fine with the loop not running at all. This concludes this video on while loops and do while loops in the Building Interactive Website series. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and the series so far, make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to look out for the next episode.